Hi, my name is Shu, and I will be putting forth my points over the course of this debate to highlight how one's cultural values have more of an impact over an individual's ethical behavior as compared to the organizational culture surrounding him or her.
Hi, my name is Tauha, and I'll be debating Shu's standpoint here on an individual's ethical behavior in a corporate setting. I personally believe that the organizational culture around an individual has the capacity or even the potential to not only influence his or her ethical behavior, but perhaps even redefine what a person deems ethical or unethical to begin with.
The debate or conversation that is to follow will be in references to the Keep It Real series of video, which document the views and narrations of a white-collar criminal and also feature real-life accounts of auditing professionals on the matters of white-collar crimes and fraudulent misdemeanors in a corporate setting. Yeah. And in the given case, the perpetrator claims that he grew increasingly homesick during his time with a Japanese company, and that he could not manage to come to terms with the organizational culture, which put work ahead of family. So he left inclined to move to the local company, which allowed him to work in close proximity to his extended family. Now, given that it was at this company where he first came across prevalent financial dishonesty as an organizational norm. Of course, based on his Catholic upbringing, his moral appealed to him to try and change the way that professionals in that firm conducted themselves. To begin with, furthermore, quite a few times during his interview, he said that in retrospect, he should have left the organization just as soon as he discovered the culture of improper professional conduct, setting in particular an instance where he was reprimanded.
Reprimanded by like his boss? Yeah,
sure, thank you. Discussing these great company matters with some outside people, and however, he sort of felt pressured into staying there for a longer period of time simply based on his cultural values. The job allowed him to be closer to his family, who relied rather heavily on him, with him being the firstborn of his family. And of course, he repeatedly said during the interview he couldn't say no to any of them. So even though he wanted to leave the company due to the widespread financial misdemeanors, his cultural values, with him being the family man and everything, pressured him to stay.
Thank you. You raised some very good points, Shu. However, my take on the same matter is a little different to yours, and here's why. You see, even though, as you stated earlier, the subject in this case stayed with the organization predominantly because, well, one, he wanted to change the corporate culture of the widespread financial wrongdoings within the organization, and two, to live close to his family and, well, in a way, try to live up to that steep expectations that put on him. Even though he wasn't particularly fond of the corporate culture at the organization, it was the organization that eventually changed him. Look, he stated a few times during the interview that the organization he was at already harbored some financially unethical elements, and by his own admission, he started feeling like he was being changed by the organization, and he started doing what everyone else was doing already, although at a more serious level. He mentioned that every time he took an initiative to counter the wrongdoings present at the company, his steps were somewhat obstructed, blocked off at a certain level of the hierarchy. Presumably, all of that is what led to him missing out on a promotion, which in turn led to him becoming more and more resentful towards the organization, and possibly laid down the platform for him to be praised by the organization to the point where he let the corporate culture around him alter his frame of mind, blur his judgment, and guide his unethical actions as well.
Okay, point taken, Tauha. But consider this through. In the Australian wakeboard scandal, where the AWB was accused of paying kickbacks to the Eric
Iraq government?
Iraq.
Oh, yeah, that, okay. Yeah, I remember that.
Iraq government under the Saddam Hussein regime.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it as a well-negotiated form of bribery, where both parties giving and receiving the bribes benefit mutually.
Okay.
Yeah, and at the expense of the general shareholders and the public at large.
Yeah, of course.
In this case, AWB received a lucrative weight contract from the
Iraq government, yes.
government in exchange for significantly high amount of bribe paid to the Iraq government under the guise of tracking fees.
Oh yes, I remember
and
that.
The reason
yeah.
the reason I brought up that example is because reportedly the AWB defined its action by stating that the massive kickbacks that it paid to Saddam Hussein regime was simply the cost of doing the business with Iraq.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Iraq, I'm sorry. This statement goes to show just how significant a role a certain cultural background can play in shaping up an individual's or even a society's ethical behavior. In some countries, especially those under somewhat corrupt regimes.
Oh yeah.
Regimes. Bribery can either be made commonplace or perhaps even rationalized quid pro quo.
Yeah, I get that. Okay.
Simply, in some instances, the line between gift giving and outright bribery might be blurred as well. All of this against the content of accounting malpractice,
accounting malpractice, alright.
In different countries.
Yeah.
Just goes to show how an individual's or society's cultural value can define the ethical bonds as well.
Again, some absolutely cracking points too, thank you. However, allow me to present a rebuttal with an example of my own. See, I honestly believe that regardless of one's personal values or cultural background, it is the organizational culture that leaves the more significant an impact, if you will. So here's why. Take the case of Enron and Arthur Andersen, for example. Enron was a large American energy company which was supposedly being audited by Arthur Andersen, one of the world's largest auditing and financial accounting services firms. Now, the textbook golden rule, if you will, is that one should never misplace loyalty. That is, be involved in unethical conduct to help the company. Ironically, this is exactly what led to the bankruptcy of both these firms. Enron was a corporate giant with many subsidiaries and smaller sister concerns. The complex structure of the entire company in itself provided the opportunity for falsification of accounting records. Moreover, and this is important, Enron instructed and pressured their auditors, Arthur Andersen, to not blow their cover, as they had leverage over the firm, being one of their biggest corporate clients. Arthur Andersen succumbed to that pressure, putting their clients' interest ahead of the general public's. Consequently, when the whole scandal unraveled, Arthur Andersen went bankrupt alongside Enron, right? Funny enough, Steve Samek, who is Arthur Andersen's country managing partner, had once said earlier, I think in 1999, that the day Arthur Andersen loses the public confidence is the day that we go out of business. And that is exactly what happened there. Now, the significance of all of that is that even in the given case, the convict states in his interview that he was not using the money for personal gains, right? And that he had rationalized it in his own mind that he wasn't doing anything wrong because he was putting the funds back after a certain period of time. Now, all that might seem a little illogical. However, the interview with the experts offered some explanation as to what the motivation could possibly have been. You see, in a situation where the money is not being used for personal gains and it's only being moved around between company accounts, it is perceivable that the perpetrator is indulging in accounting malpractice only to, well, try to benefit the company in a certain shady sort of a way, rather than himself. this is, however, in no way noble, because professionals are supposed to put the public interest ahead of the authoritative figures in the company. The corporate culture always flows down from the highest level of the hierarchy, and it can be said that the top level management are the ones to shape the corporate culture, both by example and by regulation. And it is this corporate culture which shapes up the ethics of the individuals within the organization, having more of a lasting and a more significant effect over their corporate ethics rather than their own personal values. Now, ideally what you would have is to have a decent mix of both teleological and deontological theories. Now, teleological theories are the ones where you don't put look, it's a concept of consequential and unconsequential. Like with consequential theories, what it is that you want it to be in a way that okay, so you don't do something wrong because there is a certain punishment if you do something wrong, so you don't do it. You refrain yourself from doing that. You refrain from activities of that sort. And in an unconsequential theory or an unconsequential implementation, what would happen is that it would be so like inherently ingrained in your system that you just shouldn't do anything wrong because it's just not the right thing to do. Now the point here is that everyone in their career, when they come at a crossroads like this, as was the case with the subject in the interviews that we saw, they have a choice to make. They have a choice to make, and look, the thing is, there is always a right and a wrong thing to do. It's just that sometimes the right thing is just not the easiest thing to do. So, I think if